Good morning, I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. Now, it's the last Friday of the month, which would normally mean that I would be making a music month video. However, as it is December very soon and the year is coming to a close, I thought that what I would do instead is do my annual top 5 albums of whatever year it was that year video. So that's what this is going to be now, my top 5 albums of 2018. Now, it should go without saying that, of course, music is subjective. These are just my personal opinions, and I haven't curated this list based on albums that I feel are the most culturally significant or artistically profound that were released this year. These are purely the 5 albums that I have listened to and enjoyed the most that were released in 2018. So without any further ado, and in no particular order, the first album on this list, and it's not really an album, it's an EP, but it's by the same artist that released what I thought was the best album of 2016, Benjamin Francis Leftwich. It's called I Am With You. It was released on the 6th of August this year, and I think it's really good. It's a weird one though, because I didn't initially vibe with it very much. That's such a weird phrase. When have I ever said vibe with it before? What the f***? Anyway, yeah, I didn't really get it when I first listened to it. The production is very far away from what I was kind of used to with his sound. You know, he's primarily an acoustic singer-songwriter. His distinct voice is always there. His very soft and delicate and intricate way of playing the guitar has always been fantastic, and that's what I've come to expect from him, and this was sort of a complete 180 on that. There are various sort of hip-hop and electronic influences there that weren't present in his previous music. It kind of sounds a bit like he's been taking notes from like Kanye West and Bon Iver and kind of mashed them together and thrown his own stuff on the top of it as well. Like, it's really interesting, but the first time I listened to it, I can just remember I enjoyed it, but I didn't really listen to it much. I kind of listened to it once or twice and then left it alone. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was walking home, it was dark and it was cold and I was a bit miserable, and I put it on and it was weird. I just sort of got it. I like understood the music, and then I listened to it more and more, and the more I listen to it, the more I notice and the more I can appreciate with it. And yeah, I think it's really good. And despite the different production style and new influences, you can still tell it's him. There are certain melodies and sort of structural things that he does that I recognize as being Benjamin Francis Leftwich, and I think it's wonderful. And the combination of his unique dreamy vocals with this more advanced and more intricate production just makes for a really interesting listening experience. And I just think that the more you listen to it, you get a lot out of that EP. And interestingly enough, the one track that sounds the most like his older stuff, that's kind of predominantly acoustic guitar driven, is the one track that I enjoy, I'd say, the least out of them. I think my favorite is 4 AM in London, you know, when he says, "You make me completely alive." The repetition of that line, it kind of goes exactly where I want it to musically, but does so in an interesting way. That's my first choice for the top 5 albums of 2018. Benjamin Francis Leftwich's recent EP, I Am With You. Record number 2 on this list, which I can confirm is a full album, is the latest Death Cab for Cutie release, Thank You for Today. This came out, I think, on the 17th of August this year, and I've spoken about it at length in like a vinyl haul video I did a while ago, but I really like it. I don't think I like it as much as I liked their previous album to that, Kintsugi, but I just love this record. It's got the perfect blending of a lot of that old sort of songwriting style in there, but mixed with some new sounds, some new subject matter for the lyrics as well. Ben Gibbard has always been a fascinating lyricist, and yeah, I listened to this album loads over the summer. It was probably one of my main summer albums, and the more I listened to it, the more I noticed that tends to be the case. I always find that if you absolutely adore an album upon first listen, then in general, you don't listen to it for very long. But the albums that when you first listen to, you're not quite sure about, or you're a bit skeptical, the more you listen, the more you grow to appreciate. So I really like that. But yeah, it was a huge summer album for me. Favorite tracks on this are I Dreamt We Spoke Again, You Moved Away, When We Drive, and 60 in Punk. That's the perfect, like, sad, quiet, depressing Death Cab for Cutie album closer. The third record on this list, which I believe was released on the 4th of May this year, is by John Hopkins, and it's his latest album, Singularity. Again, I've spoken about this album in a vinyl haul video, but John Hopkins is just a mastermind of sound. He's one of the few electronic producers that I feel can so effectively take me out of my comfort zone in terms of just like the experience of listening to music with all of this crazy hectic production going on, but still make it feel really smooth and really natural. Like, it's amazing how ethereal he can make glitchy hardcore electronic music sound, and then being able to meld that kind of soundscape with like just pure tranquil beautiful music and elements. It's amazing. I don't know how he does it. I would love to like sit in on a session of him producing and mixing his own music just for like a day, just to like watch exactly what he does. It's wonderful, and it's the kind of music you want to get lost in. You know, you need to allow yourself to float into these soundscapes that he's created for you. In terms of favorite tracks, it's hard to choose because it's really an album that you want to listen to all the way through. It works best as a whole, but if I had to choose a few, I would choose Singularity, Emerald Rush, Everything Connected, and Cosm. The fourth and penultimate album on this list is by the outstanding retro synthwave duo The Midnight and is called Kids. It was released on the 14th of September and it follows perfectly in the footsteps of all of their other absolutely brilliant releases. As you may be aware, I love The Midnight and I love retro synthwave as a genre of music in general. It's a little bit weird saying this because retro synthwave is quite a sort of insular genre anyway. You know, if you expand too much on your sounds, then you'll no longer be considered one of those artists. And I think they've managed to develop their sound, but while staying within that framework of kind of, you know, 80s retro synthwave. It feels fresh, which is getting harder and harder to do now because 80s nostalgia and all of this synthwave stuff is becoming really saturated. It kind of upsets me a little bit that it's as huge as it is. I would rather it stay a little bit more underground. Maybe that's just the like inner hipster in me coming out. Yeah, I feel like because of that saturation, it's getting harder for the established synthwave artists to not just end up, you know, releasing the same album over and over again. And I think The Midnight are a perfect example of how, you know, you don't have to fall into that trap because this record is such a good development on all of their releases before. Like listening through their discography, you can hear them as a duo and as artists like really developing throughout, and it's just great to hear. All I need to do now is buy their entire discography on vinyl. Kids is such a wonderful record. I don't really think that I need to say too much about it. If you haven't listened to The Midnight, listen to The Midnight and Time Cop 1983 and FM 84, like all of these good established synthwave artists. Listen to them, they're great. Favorite tracks are Wave, Lost Boy. Although Lost Boy, I hope I don't ruin the song for anyone here, but if you know it, the line that's like, I was a lost boy, was a lost boy, I was a lost boy when I met you. Because of the weird effect on the vocal, it sounds a little bit like he's saying I was an arsehole. So yeah, try and unhear that now. And America 2. America 2 I think is probably one of the best The Midnight tracks ever released. It's absolutely fantastic. And finally, the fifth record in my top 5 records of 2018. And I know that I said that this wasn't going to be in order, and it wasn't in order really, but this would probably be the number 1. I don't know what the others would rank, but in terms of the amount of time I've spent listening to and enjoying a record, this probably takes the prize for that. And that record is the latest solo release from Olaf Arnold called Remember. It was released on the 24th of August and it's fucking beautiful. I've said numerous times on this channel that Olaf Arnold is one of my favorite composers and musical artists in general, and he's a relatively prolific composer, but this is his first solo release, you know, not including stuff that he did in conjunction with TV and film. This is his first solo release in 2 years. I think the last one was Island Songs, but I think this is one of his best works. And I will have said this when I spoke about it in a vinyl haul video, but it perfectly captures his sound and his style while still feeling fresh and still giving something new to the listener. There's a whole host of new sounds, production techniques, instrumentation, song structure, things that go on this record. It's such a clear and distinctive development in his overall sound and, you know, just general development as a composer, but it still is very, very clearly Olaf Arnold. Beautiful artwork too. This is just an absolutely fantastic album, and I highly recommend that if you haven't listened to it, you do so immediately. So that concludes my choices for the top 5 records of 2018. Like I said, these are just my own choices, and it's not based on any kind of big thought process of mine. It's purely the records that I've spent the most time listening to, absorbing and enjoying the music that's on those records. So there you go, my top 5 records of 2018. And if you're wondering why Cinematic by Owl City wasn't on there, it's because I don't think it's one of the top 5 records released in 2018, at least not for me. So there you have it. Now I have one more thing to say, and you'll probably be pleased to know that this is the last time I'm going to be mentioning this, in this context anyway, in a video. But firstly, thank you so much to all of those who are continuing to show support to my vinyl Kickstarter that I set up for Her, which came out on the 28th of September this year. Yeah, I should have just started with that, shouldn't I? My favourite record of 2018 was Her by me. I'm joking, of course, but for those of you who don't know, I released an instrumental EP of 4 tracks on the 28th of September this year. It's called Her, and I started a Kickstarter campaign to get it pressed to vinyl because I am a huge vinyl enthusiast, and it's always been a goal of mine to have something of my own pressed on that format, and we've massively exceeded the target already. So thank you so much to anyone who has contributed. The Kickstarter is live for another 9 days, I think. So if you wanted to pick a copy of it up and get free shipping involved as well, the Kickstarter is linked in the description there. There are a variety of different awards rewards, including having your name in the credits, which would mean that you're literally immortalized forever. So yeah, if you want to contribute to that, then I would be super, super appreciative. And yeah, like I said, you get free international shipping on any pledges that involve getting the record, which is literally like £10. Thank you again so much for all of your amazing support. It really, really does mean the world to me. And I've got some new music coming out next week. If you follow me on Instagram, then you will probably already know about this. So yeah, a whole new collection of music by me is going to be released on the 7th of December. And don't worry, I'm not going to make a vinyl Kickstarter for this one. This is just digital only. Sincerely, thank you so much for all of your support and for watching this video. I hope I haven't rambled too much, and I would love to know what you think. What are your favorite albums of 2018? Maybe you massively disagree with some of my choices, or maybe you agree with them, maybe you haven't listened to them. If you listen to any of the music that I have talked about today and you know you love it or you hate it, let me know all of that down in the comments there, and let me know what your favorite albums are as well, because I'd love to find some new music to listen to. So thank you so much. I really, really do hope you've enjoyed this. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will see you very soon.